Hello and welcome to StroongeCast episode 84.
Where's my car?
Well, at the moment, still in the shop, unfortunately. But hey, maybe one day. Maybe one day. But apart from where's your car, how's your week?
Cat's talking to me.
She's talking to you quite loudly as well.
She's confused. I don't normally sit here at this time of day, so she's a bit confused. Yeah, it's been fine. I don't think anything particularly exciting has happened for me.
You missed one thing.
What?
What was last Saturday?
Oh, yes, of course. We had our anniversary.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about that because to me that was part of last week's episode. But yes, we had our anniversary. We didn't spend the day together, but we did have a really nice evening, didn't we?
We did.
We ended up having some food and some drinks together and hanging out with the kids and just chatting and laughing and things. So that was really nice.
And actually, we had a lunch. Was it Friday? After the podcast?
we ordered in lunch to have together, yeah.
Amazing bagels.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, that was really good because it was my first time having it. You kept saying to me, we're going to try this bagel place. And we tried the bagel place and the bagels were excellent. And I think that's going to replace sushi on our menu because you're not as into sushi as you once were.
No, well, they changed. We ordered from Itsu, which I really like, but they changed the dish that I like and added in coriander, which I can't stand. I actually cannot tolerate it. And they didn't just add it onto the top. They chopped it up and added it all the way through.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, like, I will still have it. I'll just have something, like, you know, I'll have something different. But there aren't too many things that I eat now that I am a fussy person.
She is a picky eater.
I'm not. I just don't eat meat.
Picky eater.
Or much fish. No. Not my fault. Anyway, your week.
Well, let's go back to last week, Thursday. After I recorded the podcast with you, I had that meeting in the evening, which went down really well. And Alice's butter chicken was my reward for that meeting. And it was phenomenal. To say that Jake and I kind of inhaled it would be a lie. It just disappeared. I still don't know where it went. It was incredibly good. But you being the eater that you are, you would never know.
No, but I did taste the sauce.
Yeah.
And the sauce was nice.
Didn't she? Well, I'd say didn't she do a good job? She did a great job.
She did.
Right? This butter chicken was amazing. And I kind of talked to Fairy about it the day after, Jake's girlfriend. And she said that she's also a butter chicken fan. So
Alice is making it again on Friday because she'll be here.
I see.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, if I can influence anything, the butter chicken has to be it. So, bagels for lunch on the Friday, as we say. I had this, I can't remember the name of it, but I thought it was vegetarian soup thing.
I think you thought it was minestrone or something.
That's right, but it was pastrami.
Pastrami, yeah.
Really, really nice, soft, tender beef, is it?
Yeah, cured beef.
Cured beef. I mean, was it an alcoholic before or what?
No, different cure. Different. But yeah, you really enjoyed it. And it had like pickles and things, didn't it?
It was a great bagel. I had the everything bagel. It was tasty, man. Mm. And then Saturday we had like a takeaway again, I think.
Yeah, we just had a small McDonald's.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Just fill the kids' bellies, really.
It was a very up and down Monday because I woke up to the news that my grandfather had died in the night, which I did not expect. I mean, he did have lung cancer and things, so maybe I should have, but it just kind of came quite suddenly. So there was that. But then a friend of mine who I haven't spoken to for a while, who met on Jamulus, contacted me and said, I've made a build of Jamulus that is higher quality than what we've been using for the last 6 years. Come test it. So I did that and it was very fun. Had a lot of hours, both Monday and Tuesday, on Jamulus in the afternoons instead of the evenings, recording, testing out things, and it was excellent fun. So that kind of offset the bad news. Although we had another bit of bad news, which didn't last long, luckily, but we had no hot water for some of Monday.
Yeah. Was it Monday morning or Tuesday morning?
Monday.
Monday morning.
Tuesday, we're back to normal.
days just merge.
They blend
Yeah, we woke up to no hot water.
the entire day until about 6.
Yeah, something like that.
And we're recording on Wednesday, so I'm a bit discombobulated because it's not Thursday, so I have to think about what's going on. Yesterday wasn't much of anything, and today this is my third session of the day. I had a session in the morning for 3 hours with a singer, a mentor session in the afternoon as I'm talking to somebody who's young through Logic and through becoming a producer and creating music and stuff, and now this, which normally would have been on Thursday. So I've had quite a full day today already as well.
Yeah, you'll have talked yourself out.
On Thursday, I will relax.
Yeah.
But yeah, that has been a busy week for me, which is not usually the case, as we know. But when they are, they are.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, fine. Will you quiz us?
Yes. So last week's question was, what is the name of fear of trees? If you have an irrational fear of trees, what is it called?
Well, it should be tree scadicophobia. Of course it's not, but...
No.
We talked about it already.
Dendrophobia.
Dendrophobia.
Yeah.
Sounds like
it's a weird
dandruff.
one. Oh my gosh. And
So what about rhododendrophobia?
very good. But isn't that a plant, not a tree?
Yeah,
There you go.
but it's got dendra in the name somewhere. Don't look at me like that. She's looking at me funny. I can see
This
her.
week's question is, which word can be placed before bottle, bell, and bird?
Okay, that one. I know that one.
Yeah,
I shall say nothing.
quite easy.
Mm-hmm. Good one, though.
Yeah. So then comments.
Yes, virtual mailbag.
So really we only had one main comment on YouTube from Marie,
Yes.
who said that she actually genuinely loved this episode. So that was last week's episode.
It was nice.
Yeah. I haven't been in my relationship for long, although someone would say that 14 months is quite a while. But this is the first relationship I've been in where I don't feel like I have to do all the work. It feels very effortless. Of course, we have bumps in the road like everyone else, but our communication is, I think, what makes it so effortless. He's absolutely amazing, and I can't wait until we get married, hopefully next year.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's really nice.
14 months in, they're not married. What's going on?
That's just because we got married quite quickly.
We did.
Well,
From meeting
engaged.
to marriage was what? Like, not
Well, it
long.
was over a year, but
Yeah, true, but not much
we
more.
were engaged 6 months in. She also said that she hopes the butter chicken was good. She's a huge foodie, and it's
This
now
I know, you
her
see. We talk about this.
favorite Indian dish ever. Yeah.
Yeah, I said that if she ever came over here, she would have to have your lemon cake and now Alice's butter chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, Marie, doors open. Come on. Come get. The rest of you, nah, you're all right.
Yeah. And for the food. It's all good.
Yeah, I know.
And then we had a comment from Fantastic
Yes.
on Mastodon
Friend of
about
mine.
the floating
And
or
swimming.
sinking. When did we talk about that? We didn't talk about that last week, did we?
It was either last week or the week before.
Was it the week before, maybe?
I can't remember, but we did. It was about me being black and not being able to float
Yeah,
in
I
a
just
pool
can't remember
at all.
how we got onto that. Anyway,
You know what, though? I forgot to say at the time. I just had images of me, like, pushing you around by the shoulders.
pushing me round.
On the float, like, on a float in the pool. Or on your
Oh, I
back.
see. Yeah.
It's like pushing you away.
He said, I sink, float, re-swimming. I hate swimming on my back. I can swim on my front,
Yeah, same.
but not, I cannot do backstroke.
Yeah, I can't. Honestly, I just, like, flop like a lilo that's deflated. It's terrible. And the thing is, I quite like swimming, but I will not swim. You can't pay me. I just, like, my nose falls in the water and I drown.
Your nose.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Oh.
So I don't do it.
And then we did have a comment on a much older, well, on episode 80, so a few weeks ago,
Yeah.
from Louis.
Welcome
who,
back.
Yeah, used to comment loads, but I think he said he's been busy recently, so
Yeah.
hasn't listened to too much. But he says, been away from the pod for a while, but randomly chose this episode to start listening again.
Which episode was it, by the way? The name, do you know?
It was What Did You Say to Me?
Ah, that was a good one.
Yeah. I'm just going to let the dog out.
Who let the dog out? She did.
So, been away from the pod for a while, but randomly chose this episode to start listening again. Really great episode. Andre, thank you for the heads up on the age verification situation. Didn't know about this. Also, as a blind person, I've had quite a few of these, or variations on them, said to me over the years. Me and my friends now call it the bingo card, which stereotypical weird things are going to tick off today, sort of thing. I get people have questions if they've never worked with a blind person before, but you really have to wonder where on earth they get some of these questions and assumptions from, or why they think it would be appropriate to ask. And then they often are so affronted if I say anything negative back. At that point, you're apparently being rude. And the staring too, just ridiculous. This isn't something that was said to me as such, but I had one situation where I was eating lunch at a cafe with a friend. We're chatting away, and as often happens, someone notices my guide dog, in this case, a woman at the next table. She started asking questions about my guide dog, and I started to explain how it all worked, answering the questions she was asking, only to be told after the fact by my friend that she'd apparently lost interest halfway through and started chatting to her friend who she was sat with, which obviously I was completely unaware of because she hadn't said anything. She'd literally just turned away halfway through one of my answers.
I hate when people do that.
That's so rude.
Particularly
if she's come to you.
Yeah, if you ask something and you don't stay for the explanation, then what is the point of asking?
Yeah.
So
even
rude.
if she hadn't been interested, she could have just sat there and pretended.
Yes.
You know?
100% that.
Really, really rude. And I think that's everything.
It is, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comments, as always. We love reading them out, and it helps us to give you some things to listen to, and the people that aren't on all these platforms, so you get a digest of the week's stuff.
Yeah.
So, where's my car? If I had my way, it'd be parked outside, plugged in and charging. But I don't have my way. And the reason I don't have my way is because as of this time in 2026, we don't have self-driving cars. I would like a self-driving car, and I am of the maybe minority that thinks this tech will be good, and I think it will help people like myself and lots of other listeners to the podcast, blind people, to be more independent and to get places that might otherwise be difficult to reach. That's what I think. So here's a scenario. I get asked to play a gig, and the gig is far. Do I take the gig and have to front cabs and everything, or do I ask the person running the gig if they can either pick me up or pay for cabs? Well, it's going to be number 2, right? Because the minute you have to do something that you're out of pocket for, you should have stayed home. So this scenario's happened to me plenty of times, and I do mean plenty over the years, where I'll be asked to do something, and I say, well, what about my cabs, at least, or a pickup? And they're like, oh, no, the gig just pays like 20 quid or something. I'm like, listen, much as I like your music and I like what you're doing, that isn't going to get me home and back again, or there and back again, rather. So, can't do it. Because most places in London, you can't reach for less than £20 anyway. And it's not like I can carry all my gear on a train or a bus. Because if I'm playing out, the things I will have with me will be a keyboard in a bag, a laptop in a bag, a keyboard stand, a keyboard amp, and a cane. Now, I know you can all add up. That's more than 2. But I only have 2 hands. So what am I supposed to do with the rest of it? This becomes an issue.
Yeah, it's really tricky, isn't it?
It is tricky. And you've seen how I walk out the house.
Yeah.
When I'm going to a cab.
Sometimes it's like a tortoise. I'm
It's a
just worried
waddle.
you're going to tip over.
It's the music waddle. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Right? So there's this whole thing. And then people go, no, it's fine. So then they find someone else or don't find someone else. I don't know at that point. I'm out of touch. But if I had a car of my own transport, I would be much happier. and I could do more things and go to more places and play out more often. And I would love to do all of that.
Just made me think of a kid. I'm going to go play out with my friends now.
I'm going to play with my friends now. It's absolutely right. I mean, in a year or two, I'll have a Jake, but Jake will also have his own life, and that's absolutely fine. I will not be harassing him every second of every day to drive me here, there, and everywhere. But when he's free and he wants to come, I'll ask him.
Yeah.
But it will be great to be able to get home and back again without having to pay Uber lots and lots of money. And this happens. So that's my thinking on self-driving tech. I want one. I want to be one of the first in the UK to get one when they're available. I'm not going to be able to afford it, right? So the only way I can do it is with a grant or some kind of weird scheme. Or if I talk to some crazy YouTuber like Mr. Who's the Boss to come along, sponsor the thing, and see if he can hook me up. And I have no shame in saying that, right? If you're going to do it, you've got to do it. I'm going to play all the cards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love to be one of those people that does it. Tests it out, takes it for a spin, goes to an event, comes back again, have it park outside, drop me off, and go away.
So a lot of people have, lots of safety concerns when it comes to them.
Understandably.
Are there any things that you would be nervous about in one of these cars? Or that you think could be problematic?
There's always going to be ifs and buts and do's and don'ts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is like that. Every bit of tech that we use today could fall over at any minute because of external forces, good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah.
Because even the good stuff can misbehave, and not out of malice, but the bad actors will make it misbehave out of malice. So there's always that fear. But I think if you do it a few times, it might become okay. But yeah.
So explain what you mean, though. What things do you think?
Well, if it's been taken over by somebody nasty, they could just drive you straight out into oncoming traffic. Let's be real about this. It's not going to be easy or plain sailing. And the methods behind this tech is going to have to be extremely safe. But the thing is, the minute there's anything like that, that company will tank. Nobody will buy their stuff. Their stock will fall. And they probably just either go out of business quickly or, soon afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's in their best interest to have the most rigorous back end, if you will, and that's going, because if you're putting safety is going to be, it has to be paramount, more than paramount. Yeah. If there's something higher than paramount, then that's it.
Yep.
Because when you've got someone's life in your hands, it falls to you to be as safe as you can be in such a way, right, that nobody can question you.
Yeah.
And we've seen how that can go wrong with Tesla self-driving, which is not a great system because it doesn't use LiDAR. It uses, I think, radar cameras or something else, some other method that's not as good as LiDAR, to my understanding, right? Allegedly, to my understanding. I'm not saying it is gospel. But it's apparently quite weak. Some people have had great luck with it, but a lot of people haven't. And if you look up the accident reports and things, it's not good. However, of course, we've seen Waymo driving around, and in the US, it's quite big now.
I've seen them quite regularly over the last few weeks. Not driving alone. They've had drivers within them monitoring. And when I looked them up, and it talked about how they are currently doing these sort of test drives around, I'm guessing that they have to clock up a certain number of hours or something.
Yes, I think so.
Testing at all different times, situations, all kinds of things, I guess. But they have been around us for a little while now.
Yeah.
Doing all that. They're quite interesting looking because they have this massive sort of camera built-in thing on the top that seems to be 360. And then on each sort of corner light of the car, it also has a thing sticking out, which again is maybe not 360, but looks like it's covering every possible angle.
Yeah, mapping the roads and things.
Yeah, they're quite interesting.
Have you seen the Google Maps cars? Don't they have something similar, like spins on top of the car or something?
Yeah, it's much smaller though. You mean the
Okay.
ones that like film for Google Maps and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, it's much smaller. Literally just looks like a little camera on top. Whereas the Waymo ones, they are big.
Oh, I didn't realise
Like
that.
they seem to take up a lot more of the car. They look a bit more impressive, I guess.
In the States, Waymo is actually driving people to and from driverless, right? They're actually doing it in certain parts of the US. So if they can do it there, they can do it here. Our roads are probably easier to manage. They're not as busy and also not as wide. So maybe the not as wide part's the hard part, but I think it's doable.
Yeah.
Of course, they have to retrain them for, what do you call it? Left-hand drive. Well, no, not left-hand roads, I should say, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
So that might be a bit weird for them, but that's what the training is doing now, I suppose. But this won't be the only company. There'll be other companies doing the same thing. And when we went to Belgium, the last few times in Alf's car, when we were on the motorways in Belgium, he had his feet completely on the floor because cruise control was doing its thing. So we've had cruise control for ages. That's not new. A lot of cars have that. It was controlling the pedal and even the steering. He would rest his hand on the steering wheel lightly and it would keep centered and it would turn slightly left and right and do all the things. And that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. I don't know. There's different levels of self-driving. I don't remember exactly how it worked, like level 1, 2, and 3. And, you know, one of them is like barely there and it's just lane assist and that's it. Then another one, I don't know the other one, but then like, you know, the most one is it can do everything.
Yeah.
So you could technically climb over the back of your chair and lie down in the back seat and go to sleep.
So, do you know what happens? Because this is what I was thinking about when seeing these Waymo cars and stuff. If you're in one, I'm guessing like, you know, you've ordered it through an app like you would an Uber.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the thing about having an actual person, you can sort of say, oh, actually, I've changed my mind. Can you now do this? Or actually, can you let me out right now? Can you let me out here? Can you, you know, just pull in behind that car? That's where I'll get out. Like, how does that work then with these cars? You know, not having an actual person to say.
Not certain. It would be interesting to speak to somebody in the US that's done one of these trips with Waymo. I know a few blind people that have, but I don't know if they listen. So maybe I'll have to point this episode out to them and say, like, what's your experience?
Yeah.
And if you want to leave us a comment, that'd be really nice to know. And if you have done this, leave us a comment anyway. Because I don't know the answer to these things because I've never been in one, but I am curious, like you. What if you've got an emergency? You've got to get out now. You've got to end the journey early. You need to pull up safely as well. You can't just get out in the middle of the road, of course.
Well, no, that's it. How does it... I mean, I know maybe it can judge where it could pull in and park, I guess, and let you out.
Would have to, right? Because every stop is essentially got to be a safe stop.
Yeah, I'm sure it wouldn't just say, but does it have like a way of you being like, oh, this is... I don't know. I just feel like if there's not an actual person there that you can say if there is an emergency or something is happening.
Yeah.
How is that managed?
And how does that translate when it's your own vehicle eventually? There'll be a dashboard or an app or something probably. And you'll be like, pull over, go to the nearest service station, pull over to the nearest side road. I need to get out.
Yeah, I assume you can take control back.
You'd have to be able to, yeah.
So, yeah.
And then there's lots of other questions around this kind of thing as well. Like if a blind person is an owner of a self-driving car and the car hits somebody or has an accident, who's responsible?
Mm-hmm.
As a non-driver,
Yeah.
I think it would still be me because the vehicle is a vehicle I own, but I wasn't driving it. But that would still be my responsibility, I think.
I guess it would depend if there was a fault with the car.
Yeah.
You know, if the car didn't respond in the way that it's supposed to, and that is not through any fault of yours, surely you can't be held accountable for that then.
That is a loophole that people would try to exploit. But yes, that is certainly an aspect that we would have to...
But then, so do you
discover.
think maybe they would use that to say that blind people shouldn't have the car
Probably.
because they can't, you
They
can't.
can't see to be responsible with it.
Well, yeah, I don't know, because if you've got a sighted person and they're in the car and, like you said, they're in the back of the car, they're not going to be able to take over quick enough if there's an accident.
Yeah.
But technically that's allowed because that's kind of what we're going towards.
It's the kind of insurance discrimination that people wouldn't see as discrimination because it just seems obvious to them. By which I mean, previously, blind people couldn't drive normal cars, so why would they want self-driving cars? You see what I mean?
Well, yeah. So I was going to say, if they're going to say, blind people can't drive these cars because they can't sort of double check, I guess.
Yep.
But then if you've got a sighted person in one of these cars, in a driverless car that they own, they're not necessarily going to be keeping an eye on the road either, because that's the whole point of it.
That's the whole point, yeah.
So they could be doing work, reading, sleeping, playing a game, whatever they're doing. So how is that any different from somebody who can't see?
To me, it isn't. But to the insurance people and the claims, or the people whose car was hit, or the person, it would be different to them.
I guess those are all the sort of loopholes they would have to.
Yeah, I don't agree with this assessment, by the way, but I just know how people think because I'm a cynical git. And I see it. I can already see them coming out the woodwork and saying exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works. Something new comes out. This group of people can use it. That group of people can't use it. Why not? Well, because tradition says. But this is a totally new model. So how can you talk about tradition? Well, it's just the way it's always been. But isn't the point to get away from how it's always been? Yeah, but. You see what I mean? It just goes round and round. So there's going to have to be, and I'm sure there will be, a fight and at least one or two court cases in the land of blind person versus insurance company. I want a car. You can't get a car because you're blind, but it's a self-driving car. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to insure you. Then you're discriminating against me. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
This is how it's going to go. I know this. I can feel it inherently because I've seen it all my life. Ask pretty much anyone else listening to this who's blind. There'll be some other story just like that. And that's how things like the ADA in the US, the Americans Discrimination Act, I think it's called. Don't quote me on that. And over here we have the DDA, the Disability Discrimination Act. That's what these things were meant to combat. But when you have an entirely new class of vehicle, and I do mean it in this case, not a pun, how do you combat that? Well, you have to make new laws. Those laws will take a long time to get ratified in Parliament and in the Senate. So it's going to be a whole thing. It's going to be fascinating to watch, both good and bad. Both good and bad.
They'll just stick to the cabs for now, which are...
because we would be allowed in those because they're self-driving and we don't own them. That's going to be a loophole, yeah? So it might be that you get your parent or your wife to buy your self-driving car. It's under their name, but you're the one who takes it places. See? We're already fighting the system. We're springboarding. We're coming up with loopholes. Lawyers, if you're listening, don't listen.
But you see, that's another thing. I'm not saying... But, like, say you do that.
Yeah.
Say, for instance,
You're liable.
I get one.
Yeah.
And it's in my name and everything. Say we had one right now. The kids, would they be able to get in and use that then? Can you have an under 18 in that?
It's a really good question.
Would you have to have a special license? Because if it's self-driving, would you still need a license? But then if you're saying that you can take over the controls should you need to, you would need to be able to drive, right?
I don't know, because I'm assuming, right, and this is just an assumption, that all these cars in the future won't have steering wheels. So the only taking over you'll be doing is guiding it with like some kind of joystick, like an Xbox controller, like in the Titan submarine, to the side of the road and stopping, right? I'm not assuming that you, who can't drive, would be driving. You'd be pointing to a point on the map and saying, all right, just stop here. That's enough. You would not be actually driving, using the pedals, using the handbrake, any of that, is my guess.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
No, but you would need some way of...
Yeah. You'd need some way of taking over, absolutely. You'd have just a big old touchscreen like they do in every car nowadays. I don't agree with touchscreens in cars. Anyway, it's different. But yeah, you'd probably just point or tell the car, hey car, stop over there. And you'd point and it would know because it's got in-car cameras and it would look out the window and judge based on your pointer finger.
It would look out the window.
It would look out the window. It would look, it's cameras on the headlights, as you say. It would go over there and pause, right? It'd be, okay, Kirsten.
No, don't.
You see what I mean, though? You tell it how to
If I'm going to
pronounce
have a car, it's going to be able to say my name properly.
I agree entirely. Okay, StroongeCast. Well, stopping.
That would be quite funny.
But how did we even get on this topic of cars? Because I think I brought it up to you.
Yeah, it was your idea.
It was John Mars as well.
Yes.
We have to mention John Mars.
Yeah, so he's one of our favourite authors, and he wrote a book, one of his books called, what was it called?
The Passengers.
The Passengers. And
I might need to reread it because I've kind of forgotten, but not forgotten.
It's such a good read. Honestly, highly recommend. It's quite a hard read in parts.
Yes.
But just because there's a lot that goes on and
the whole hacking thing is kind of where my brain went from that as well.
Yeah, so it's about these self-driving cars and that they are hacked and the reason and the things that have to happen in order for them to be
the people
released
to stay alive, isn't it?
Yeah, or not, or what happens. But it's really, really interesting, really good.
He's a very, very good writer. I really like everything he's written so far.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed all of his books. But yeah, it's definitely maybe not an argument for self-driving cars.
Yeah, I would say not, actually.
But yeah, it's interesting.
So would you argue for me to have one or not to have one? And not because you're my wife and have to be supportive, because you don't. We can disagree.
I think I don't know enough about it to say yes or no.
Yeah, that's very diplomatic of you.
Yeah, I know. I'm a very on the fence person.
Yes.
I think we would need to know, like all of these questions that we have. What happens, reinsurance? What happens if you get into an accident? Like all of that kind of stuff.
What if you're rear-ended? The car just stops and leaves you in the middle of Wales.
Yeah, I think this, we have so much technology that we use and rely on, but it fails a lot. There are issues a lot. And so it would worry me that it wouldn't be 100% safe and 100% okay 100% of the time.
Which is impossible.
Exactly. But that's quite a big gamble to take.
It is.
So, yeah, honestly, it doesn't necessarily fill me with excitement like I know it does for you. But that's just because I have a very anxious mind. So it's always going to go to the worst possible scenarios.
But in this case, that's probably a good thing because you can plan and we can talk about that with the people that eventually show us the car. Mm-hmm. And they can say,
I also think they're going to be ludicrously expensive and we're going to need to win the lottery in order to afford one.
Several times over, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can become a YouTube member and pay a lot of money.
Yeah. But, I guess we just have to see how they're used. I mean, we haven't even got them properly as taxis yet.
No.
As cabs yet. So the likelihood of them coming out anytime soon for normal people to actually own.
Yeah. And yet we've had things like DLR for years. Cable cars for years. And we can't do self-driving tech.
Yeah, but DLR and things like that, it's a straight line.
I know it is, but
it's
even
there
so.
and back. And you haven't got passengers or people or animals or things like that necessarily just wandering out onto the track.
Yeah. Doop-de-doop-de-doo. Hello, track. Yeah, I know, but just silly. But if we can do that, some of that technology, older though it may be, can be used here. I really think so. Just a matter of refining it, making it better. Yeah. And our computers, and we're getting, they're getting smaller and smaller and more powerful in smaller packages. So, look, we can calculate, right, from Earth, the best way to sling a spaceship around the moon and come back to the second, which honestly blows my mind. And yet there are cab drivers in London that can't find the next street over. So if we can do that with, right, astronauts, I think we can do that with self-driving cars if we really, really put our minds to it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to use that stupid phrase of how hard can it be, because it obviously is hard and there's so many questions and we've only proved like less than 1/10 of them today. But why is it so hard is more the question I want to ask. Not how hard can it be, but why is it so hard?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe it should be.
I don't know.
It's really quiet in the house. Just like as on a tangent, I'm listening. And it's like, are they breaking up polystyrene and making it into snow upstairs or what?
Oh God, not again.
Explain that reference.
That was many years ago when we lived in our previous place.
Yeah.
And Jake was at school, Alice was still little and she was at home. And my best friend Kelly came over and her middle child, Rona, and Alice were playing really quietly in their room.
Really quietly.
And I can't remember if one of them came and got us or we
Alice
went to
did.
go and, and we went into the room and there was a piece of polystyrene about an A4 size that had come out of a game, out of the box, and they'd completely shredded it into teeny, teeny, tiny pieces. And polystyrene is quite static. And it was over everything.
Yeah.
All over them, all in their hair, all over the floor. Just absolutely everywhere.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. So.
And you found it for weeks after.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you a story about something similar. So I watch Techmoan, right? YouTuber. And every month or so he puts out like a video for patrons because I'm a Patreon supporter.
Yeah.
And I just finished it a couple hours before this podcast episode. And in it, he said to liven up his wife's like mother's party, right? In 1999, like New Year's Eve. He got an IED, like an indoor explosive device. Yeah.
Right.
In it was glitter.
No.
It explodes in the house.
Oh my gosh.
Glitter.
Why?
Glitter everywhere. This guy's mad.
Oh,
Glitter
that's the
everywhere.
worst to try and clear up.
You know how bad it is? It's 2026 now, right? 26 years
finding it.
later. They were vacuumed recently somewhere. And, you do all the time, right? You have not the first time you vacuum in 26 years. They found glitter from 26 years ago in some nook and cranny of the house because it went
That is
all
so
over the
bad.
house. All over.
I would actually be livid if someone did that in my house.
All over the house. Glitter, like polystyrene,
Ugh.
is an everywhere device.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
An
it
everywhere
really is.
device.
That's really bad.
You don't want it.
Oh my gosh.
Those are the two things. Imagine
And
if
this
you
was
had them
his
both in one
mother-in-law.
box.
He did this at his mother-in-law's.
Yes.
That's not really a good way to get your mother-in-law to like you.
No.
Well,
I just puked. I mean, that's clean upable. But glitter, I think I could have got shot.
Oh no.
Hi, mother-in-law.
That's really
Sorry
bad.
about your lawn. Hi, mother-in-law. Sorry about the glitter you're finding for 300 years.
Mm.
I know which I prefer. Well, I say prefer. I think I just self-drive myself home now. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you what. Give us a Stroonge news story. I think we deserve it after that.
Just a quick silly one. It's about a man in a dinosaur-themed attraction in China who reportedly leaned too close to a lifelike dinosaur model and accidentally got his head stuck inside the display's mouth while trying to interact with it. So it's one of these sort of toy thing. Well, not even toys. It is huge, proper big dinosaur. I've taken Jake to things like this when he was younger, and they have these animatronic animals.
Yeah.
And this dinosaur is there, and its mouth is opening and closing, and it's moving its head from side to side. And this man thought it would be fun to put his head inside the dinosaur's mouth
Yikes.
And of course, it closes its mouth and moves from side to side, still holding onto his whole head. And it has teeth and everything. So he eventually managed to pull himself free by forcing the mouth open with his hands. And he suffered minor cuts around his upper neck, but thankfully no serious injuries.
Okay, so he didn't die.
No, he didn't die because it doesn't close its mouth fully, but it's still,
He didn't die, dinosaur.
He didn't. No,
That means
he
I can't
didn't.
even use the joke. No, right, I need to bite my head off.
No.
Damn.
That the park staff did later explain that there are warning signs that were already in place around the attraction, advising
did you not see the sign?
visitors to keep a safe distance.
Wow.
So yeah, just a reminder to not stick your head in things.
It's probably a good
That you
that's a
shouldn't.
good life lesson. Period. Don't stick your head in things.
Exactly.
It's not smart. There is a YouTuber, and sometimes these people do very silly things, who put his head in the microwave and used, I don't know if it was concrete or cement, to cement it inside for a stunt, and had to call the fire brigade to get it off. Because that's clever. In a microwave too. I mean, he didn't turn it on because of course you couldn't, but he put his head in a microwave and properly cemented himself in.
It's mental. People are just
Ridiculous.
stupid.
That too. Well, there you go. A little bit shorter one than last week, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. But that's my thought on self-driving tech. I'd like it. And if Mariah's listening, maybe she would too. Sometimes she and I agree on some random things. But I'd love to know what everyone else thinks. Ed, what you doing? James? Louis? Are you with me or not? And it's fine. I'm just really curious because, James is in Scotland right now. If I could jump in my car and be like, right, look, I'll be back in 5 days. And I'm going all the way to Scotland. And if I didn't have to go to the petrol station for a toilet break or something, I could go the entire way just in my own vehicle. That could be incredibly cool.
Yeah.
I do hope it happens in my lifetime. That's what I want.
Yeah. One day.
One day. But I guess until then, we'll have to wish you a great week and ask you to hype, like, and subscribe. Follow.
Actually,
podcast
really
and-
quickly,
Yeah?
before you do
Before I do?
disappear, we should just say thank you to everybody who sent us happy anniversary wishes.
There was a lot of you.
There was loads. So
On
thank
Facebook
you. That was
and,
really,
Mastodon.
really kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
17 years together
Yeah.
and no car to show for it. But if you'd like more of our content and stuff and podcast and to listen to us on your dog walk, that's great. Please do stick around for the next one or previous episodes too if you haven't checked those out. We've got a lot now. I mean, this is 84, That's quite a big number.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think, because I check every week, I think as of last week, not this week because I obviously haven't edited it yet, that we are 1 day and an hour and a bit worth of podcast if you listen back to back.
It's a lot of dog walks.
That's a lot of dog walks. Yeah. So if you're on a commute, then like a long plane flight, you've got some good long episodes in the can there. And I would highly recommend you check out a few. You know what we should do? At some point, we should go through and list a couple of summaries from some of the previous episodes that we both like
Yeah.
as a recap. Because there'll be people that have not listened from the beginning. How very dare you. But no, there's a lot there. Anyway, thank you so much, as always, for being with us. Yeah? And we will see you in a week's time. But until then...
Bye.
All right, so I've got my phone slightly right of center of my speakers, but that doesn't matter really. I'm going to play some music here. I'm actually editing some things, and this is normal speakers. But then I'm going to switch off each speaker, and all you're left with is a sub. And it just sounds really crazy because it sounds like there's a massive party going on upstairs. Because of course, it's really hard to tell direction of where sound is coming from when it's just bass. It could be come from anywhere. So here are the speakers, as I say, slightly off center, but I need both my hands to turn the speakers off. So I'll turn one speaker off at a time because they're very spread apart. But here's the music without that being happening first. Right, since I'm closest to the right, I'll turn the right speaker off first. And now the left, all the way over here. We're just left with this amazing rumble, which reminds me of the Notting Hill Carnival when I used to live there, and you'd hear the sound system sounds coming through the windows, and my goodness, the sound was immense. And then you open the window, and you'd get the sound come back, because the sound was allowed to come inside. We turn the speakers on. One. And then you get definition back. It's just hilarious to me. Every time I do this test, it's always surprising just how much the sub is carrying, but also how much it isn't carrying. Because, of course, it's a sub and it's not supposed to, but it's just really funny. So that's the whole message.